Okay, this is for the DN-T34 Teaching Pilates class, and this will be a intermediate level Cadillac session, meaning we're only going to be on the Cadillac for the full comprehensive session. I will be also using the Bossy block system for the organization of the repertoire. All right, so we're going to start with a roll down, so we'll face the open end, feet against the uprights, either legs straight or knees slightly bent, depending on your tightness and your client. And then roll down bar. I'm grabbing just inside the carabiners, a wider shouldered person, like a man who has wider girth up top. Then you could go outside the carabiners. So just reminders to anchor big and second toe, either on the uprights or against the platform if you use it. And organize in your neutral. Draw collarbone wide, shoulder blades slide down the back ribs. Inhale, hollow and scoop. Exhale to roll down. And right here you want to make sure they go through a little bit of a posterior tilt to articulate through that lower area of the spine. And then nod, sink the breastbone. Right here, checking shoulder girdle positioning. Peeling off. And you want to have the client take time. This is their warm-up. And so we're really just working on articulating the spine mainly and working or warming up the abdominals. Cueing to keep the bar level and to roll smoothly. When you get over sitting bones, either bend the knees and lengthen if need be, or just lengthen if they have the flexibility again. Inhale, exhale, scoop from the low belly, tailbone area starts the curl. As you come through, you feel the sacrum and the back waist make contact. Widen the collarbone as you lengthen out the back body. Inhale, nod, curve, but careful of the shoulders here. Curve forward over sitting bones. Lengthen it, sit tall. Again, either bending the knees or keeping them straight. Let's do two more. Inhale, exhale, roll down. Inhale, nod, curve, exhale, roll forward. And we'll do another one. Inhale, exhale, scoop. Taking the time to articulate each bone into the mat. And then now we'll stay lengthened out. 3 pulls, elbow side, keeping the wide collarbone and resisting the springs as you extend the arms. Inhale and exhale. One more, inhale and exhale. Nod to sink the breastbone and curve. Now this time you'll stay in the C curve. And I like the palm of the hand more on the bar at this point. Pull the navel toward the back waist and a tiny press. Exhale. Focusing abdominals. Exhale. Scooping. Exhale. Shoulder positioning. And exhale. Then wrap the fingers, roll down. Lengthen out, inhale. Curve, exhale. And lengthen. All right, release the bar carefully, or you can take it from them. All right, we're going to scoop back a little bit, and we're going to be using our push-through bar, so take it and load it from the top. One spring top loaded. And then have the client under the bar so that the shoulders are underneath the bar when they're holding it, approximately. Legs can be together a little further out so they're not jammed up. Neutral pelvis and spine. Let's do one shoulder shrug upward, not toward the ears but toward the ceiling. Wrap the shoulder blades into the mat. Bend, inhale. Stretch behind as you sink the back ribs. Exhale. Control the bar as it comes through. Straightening the arms all the way first, then nod into your ab curl and lower. One more like that. Shrug the shoulders. Inhale. Glide them down. Bend. Sink the ribs and press through to stretch. Come back through with control not letting the bar pop. Straighten all the way with the shoulders down, nod, curve. Now come to that ab curl stay. Now come another couple of inches and back to just the ab curl position. Exhale, and exhale, and exhale, and exhale, and one more, and roll all the way down. Now separate the feet and bring the feet under the knees. We're going to do a bridge here. Inhale, pelvic curl, roll up to bridge. Bend and push through to stretch. Sink the chest. Ooh, a little wobble there. So we're going to roll down. Trying not to wobble and come back through and extend. Then curl, roll up to bridge. Keep your bridge, bend and push through. Inhale, sink the chest, tractioning that spine, rolling as smoothly as they can into that neutral. Control the bar and back up. Then you take the bar from them and release. Okay, and then let's move on to some knee sways. And for the knee sways or the spine twist supine, you can either have them brace the uprights with the elbows a little bit bent right here, and or you can have them grab alongside the mat to anchor the shoulders. But if this is okay for their shoulders to do it here, that's a good way to anchor the upper shoulder girdle area. And we'll start with the feet together, heels up, and knees together, sway to the right, keep the left shoulder anchored, and squeeze back to center. And over to the left, keeping the right shoulder anchored, and exhale to center. You can do a few more there, or go ahead into the next level of difficulty to tabletop 90, and sway, inhale, squeeze to center, exhale, sway, inhale, squeeze to center. Two more like that. Not going so far that you arch the back, keeping knees and feet together, shoulders braced into the mat, and center pause. Now because it's intermediate, the next level of difficulty, and you would pull the bar down to have them grab it, and they would keep the bar in just a position with their shoulders down. So the resistance is, you're working the upper back, mid-back area just by keeping the back shoulders into the mat, holding this, and now continue the knee sways here. Inhale, squeeze to center, exhale, and inhale, and exhale, and inhale. Keeping that opposite shoulder bracing down, and inhale, and exhale. And then toe dip, inhale, lift, exhale, toe dip, inhale, lift, exhale. Once more each side, just kind of again warming up abdominals and getting some circulation going a little bit. All right, one at a time, put the feet down. You would take the bar from them, and then I usually would just have them hug in to stretch out the back a little bit, and then while they're doing that, you can set up for footwork. So we're going to take the spring off, and we're going to put our safety chain on first. And once your safety chain is on, we're going to load the springs from the bottom. And for footwork, you can either do one spring bottom loaded to be lighter, or you can do two springs bottom loaded for more challenge. So I'm going to go ahead and load two springs bottom loaded. Now the other thing you can do for footwork is usually I let them slide back and put the head on a stool back behind. And you can also add a little head lift. I'm going to put a posture pillow on there. And if you feel like they need a little more warm up before doing this more intense leg footwork, you can always add a little bit more work before we start footwork for warm up. But I'm going to move on to footwork. Now normally you would push the bar up, remember, but I'm by myself, so I'm just going to do it. And stretch, and then I'm going to get my heels about a fist apart, and I look at the top carabiner so I can line up with the center to find the center of the bar. And I'm on the heel pocket with the feet flexed parallel, and then I'm drawing that tailbone in the direction of the wall opposite me. I can anchor here on the back, braces here or alongside is fine too. Depends on your client. And then as we do the bending of the legs, it's not important that they bend very far. In fact, it's more important to keep neutral as much as possible. Depending on their flexibility, you can slide them further back if necessary, or have them bend even smaller. That's okay. I'm going to take a small bend, and as I do, I'm lengthening my tailbone and my spine in the direction away from my sit bones to the wall opposite me. And then as I keep bending, I'm tightening abdominals and reaching that tailbone along the mat toward the wall opposite. And then when I press, stretching, I'm thinking of that opposition through the legs, and I'm thinking of my spine continuing to elongate in both directions. So focus abdominals, yes, but focus the back of the pelvis. We want to think of the opposition, tailbone lengthening away from the waist, especially as you bend, and then stretching, bracing across the low abdominals. When you bend, think sitting bones widen apart and sitting bones narrow slightly as you stretch. Sit bones widen apart, inhale, and stretch, exhale, and inhale, widening sitting bones and lengthening the tailbone in the direction opposite. And one more. You can do anywhere from 5 to 10 repetitions. Now we're going to go on the toes parallel, and the toes will be just slightly higher than the heels, so you're not in a full flex, but you're also not in a hard press up point. So just that little neutral-ish of a foot. You're going to keep your heels in a space lock so they don't move up and down as you continue your bend and stretch. Inhale, lengthening the tailbone, exhale, widening the sitting bones to bend, narrowing the sitting bones to stretch. Flattening across the low abdominals like a seat belting across or a saran wrapping across. Always focusing all the posture muscles even though your client is lying down, because we're working with this intense springage where they're really having to focus on alignment. So since they can see their feet and their knees, you can have them focus on the knee tracking directly between the big and second toe, that first ray, all right? And we'll do 5 to 10, your choice, and then keep the toes where they are and just bring the heels together. And keeping the heels together with, again, the toes slightly above the heels. Now the knees will bend on the slight diagonal for your Pilates V, and then scoop the belly, lengthen the tailbone, stretch all the way, lengthening those inner legs. Inhale, wide sitting bones. Exhale to press. I like the clients to go slow on this footwork. The springs pull the bar down, so they're resisting that as they bend the knees, so that they're controlling it. And then there's a lot of stretch on the extension of the legs. And so focusing the neutral pelvis, the abdominal connection, but also lengthening that tailbone and widening those sitting bones as they bend, and then really focusing the stretch against the springs as they keep lengthening into their neutral. Then after we do our set here, we go to the open V on the heels. I always spot the bar, remember. Anytime the client's changing their foot positions, you would always spot the bar. And in fact, throughout the whole footwork, you're really right there next to them spotting. And keeping your hand close, if not on the bar, depending on, how you feel about their level of expertise. But even with your most advanced clients, you still need to spot. Sometimes they get distracted, and so don't talk to them too much when they're doing this footwork. You want to let them focus on what they're doing and how they're doing it. Give them cues and things to focus on, but then really just have them breathe and focus and concentrate. So I'm in the open V on the heels, again using those same images. Notice it's not a huge bend of the knees, that's okay. They don't have to come way down because it's better that they control the neutral position and work with that focus of fluidity and the working from the center, and then also the breath, working to coordinate the breath. So you could always cue the breath as well. And then on the next one, I always have them stay straight to change their foot positions. So anytime you're changing foot positions, have them straighten their legs all the way, put your hand on the bar to support it as they adjust their feet. Now we go to the open V on the toes, again toes slightly above heels. Check the neutral position of the spine and the pelvis. Then we begin again with that little space lock on the heels and same images. All right, and so again, always change foot positions when the legs are straight. That way your client has more control over the springs. This is very, precarious here. So you don't want to change when they're in a bent position. Just reminders of what we've talked about in our class. All right, now let's say you've done your set of 5 to 10. We're going to come back to the center parallel on the toes. And you can have the feet just an inch apart between the big toes is about right. And so they're fairly close together and straight to start with the heels high for this one. Now we do our calves. And again, this is not for everybody. They need to be someone who feels they can do this kind of work with this kind of tension. You might want to drop it down to one spring for this. If it feels too intense, that's fine. And we continue anywhere from 5 to 10 again, depending on your client. And then you can go into some running. A lot of times I'll do the running later on the reformer toward the end. Sometimes it can be a little too much to do both of these here in this footwork sequence. Depends again on your client. And then you can give it a little stretch. Then you're going to take hold of the bar, and as they come in, you're going to control the bar down to have them take one foot off, then the other, and then you bring it the rest of the way down. Obviously, I'm doing this by myself, but you would always assist and spot and hold that bar as it's coming down and as they're removing their feet. I'm now going to drop down to one spring. So obviously, I'm just doing this right here. The teacher would do this, of course, which would be a much better way to do it. I'm going to go ahead and slide out. It's a little easier to change my spring. And I'm dropping down because we're going to go to single leg. Always spot the client, though, if they ever do come out from under the bar. Always make sure they're not going to hit their head. So you always put your hand at their head and guide them out from under and back under the bar. But you would probably just change that for them for the single leg. And now we're going to do the same kind of thing. You're going to push the bar up as the teacher first, all the way up, so they can put their feet back on. Now I usually have them put both feet on again so they can adjust, if necessary, their positioning here. And they can either brace the uprights or alongside. And then put the heels on the bar parallel. And you want the pocket of the heel, which is that little indentation right under the outside ankle bone. About a fist apart between the ankle bones. And then once they've set that up and gotten into their neutral, either arms alongside or they can brace. And then take one leg off. Stretch it out on the mat if they have that flexibility, or it can be slightly bent. Now we're going to do one leg. And here's the problem here is that typically the hip will hike up a bit on the leg that's on the bar. And so you really want to come around and grab and pull down right in the crease of that hip, pull it down and around toward the sit bone. And I just use the thumb and the flat part of the palm of my hand or the heel of my hand to do that. And I'll show it on the other side in a minute. And so that way it helps them feel, oh, this is what it feels like to keep my pelvis level in its neutral as I bend and stretch again. It's real easy to hike that hip in this single leg position here. So again, you're basically repeating except with one leg. And so this is where you'll see discrepancies from one side to the other. So you just want to correct alignment issues that you see. Usually touch is the best way, as well as verbal, but depends on your client. And then make sure they're tracking knee over the big and second toe as they bend and stretch, especially with the single leg. That's where you might see one leg wants to roll in or out, and you want to always correct that alignment. Be sure you're looking at your client from both the sides and from forward, so you can really see the alignment. Really is helpful. After you do your 5 to 10, first put both feet on again. Check their position, have the other foot come off. And again, you can put the hand so that you're pressing it, you know, a little in that crease there, a little bit down and around to help them as they start the bend, so they really keep that neutral as much as possible. And tracking that knee right over the big and second toe and working smoothly. No quick movements here, no jerky movements, and as fluid as possible. And with the spring from below, it's much harder to control that. So they're really working here a little bit more in terms of that control. That's one reason I love this footwork here, and also that it gives you such a good stretch as well as strengthening. And working those abdominals. And then you can always do the same thing on the toes. I won't go through that entire sequence, but let's do a few here. So we do the bend and the stretch. In case you're doing this with me on a Cadillac, not everyone has access to a Cadillac. You might just be using this for your observation hours. But if you are doing it with me, of course you want to be as equal on both sides as possible. And now let's switch though. We're just doing about 5. And I put both feet on, check my position, always spot the bar when they're changing, and then begin again. Always controlling both directions. Lengthening the tailbone as you bend the knee, flattening the abdominals, exhaling to stretch. I'm exhaling on the stretch because that's when we're pushing against the resistance, so I'm focusing the abdominals a little more. You could reverse that breathing. I just like to use the exhale to straighten against the resistance. Okay, now you would take hold of the bar and then have them bend a little bit, take their foot off, you're holding the bar, you would bring it down. Now to come out from under the bar, I always just have them grab on. I spot their head as they slide out and clear the bar completely before they roll to their side, and always spot to make sure they can't hit their head there, because that could be bad. Okay, so now let's move on to some abdominal work, and we're going to go out of this setup. So I'm going to take my bottom loaded spring off. Let me get my leverage here. And then I'm going to take my safety chain off, hook it back up out of the way. All right, and then we're going to go to one spring top loaded. You always check your carabiners, make sure they're closed all the way. Always check them every single time you hook them up, no matter what. All right, so next we're going into the top loaded roll up. And so on this one, you'll have to a lot of it depends on your client's shoulder girdle flexibility, etc. But we're going to start with the legs straight. This is intermediate, so we're going to go ahead and go for this. And hands a little bit above our bar, a little bit above the bottom part of the shoulders. And so we're going to do a roll up. So we nod. I'm doing it with straight legs right now, and just doing a full roll up. And then roll down. But you could do it with the legs bent a little bit too. All right? And inhale, exhale, roll up. And then you can add a little bend behind the back of the top of the head. Stretch and roll down. And again, inhale, exhale, roll up. bend, stretch, and roll down. All right, and then we're going to add and do the teaser. So let's start with the legs in a 45-ish degree angle in the Pilates V. Nod and roll up to your teaser, and then roll it down. Inhale, nod and roll up, hold it, and roll down. Now, you can add on to right away to do the teaser too, and so you'd start the same. Inhale, exhale, roll up, and do a little lower lift. 1, 2, let's do 3, and roll down. One more time, inhale, exhale, roll up, flat back, lower lift. 1, 2, 3, roll down. Bend in. Now, if we want to do teaser 3, you would just stretch the legs out on the mat. And we'll do the same thing and simultaneously lift the legs as we roll up. Start first with your little nod into ab curl. Then right about here, you start the legs as you roll up. Then scoop to roll down. Try to arrive them at the same time. Start your ab curl, inhale, and then they go up together. Exhale, inhale, and exhale to roll down. All right, then you would take the bar out of the way. Okay, and then next, we're going to do the bottom lift with the roll down bar. So let's take our spring off and we'll lower that push through bar down. Now we're going to use the swing. So I'm going to go ahead and attach my swing to the sliding bar above. And then I'm going to be using my roll down bar with that. And this is the bottom lift with the roll down bar. So I lay with my head toward the roll down bar and I pull it down to give it to the client. Have them put their feet in the lower part, which is the strap of the swing. And then I adjust the bar from above if I need to, and then I would lock it down. I'm not going to lock it down for me. And then I have them draw the shoulders down so that they have some tension there so they can get a good shoulder girdle positioning, neutral spine to start. And now I like to separate it first. We're going to have them do a little press, just to engage the mid-back so they feel that, and then release. And then I'm going to have them curl and roll up to a little bridge here, and then roll back down. Let's do that one more time. A press, and control back, and scoop, and curl to bridge, and then sink the chest and roll down. And then we're going to do that bottom roll up with the press at the same time. Press and lift to bridge, and then release it down. You can either do a straight lift up and then roll down, or a roll up and roll down. So I think I just did the roll up and I'm doing the roll down. And then the next one, I'm just going to do a straight lift as I press. And then a roll down. So you can always vary it like that too. And press and roll down. One more time. So we're in the abdominal block here. And roll down. Okay, then you would take the bar for them, have them slip their feet out. All right, now let's go ahead and remove this swing out of the way. And the next thing we're going to do is our hip work. And this is our hip work block, and we're going to use the leg springs at the open end. I've already got my sliding bar at the height that would be appropriate for me. I'm about just under 5'5". I've got it Actually, I'm going to lower it just a hair, just below my shoulder height when I'm standing. And then make sure your little knobs are locked in nice and tight so that the bar doesn't give or move. Now, you can give them a head support for this if you want. I'm just going to do it with my head flat. And there's two ways you can do this setup for the lying down. You can have them lie down with their head close to the end of the open end, and then they can grab these uprights here with their elbows bent. That can help them kind of brace in case the tension on the springs is a little bit challenging for them. Again, these are intermediate people, so maybe they're fine to not have to do that and they can just bring their arms down. Or I would usually have them brace though, or put a sticky under the spine. Or for more challenge, you can have them slide out part way, still slightly bent elbows, or even a little further. I'm going to do about halfway. So my elbows are bent, but I'm not all the way to the back edge. Then you would help them slip their feet in to the foot loops, and it should be on the pocket of the heel. So that's that part that's not on the back of the heel, but on that little indentation right under the side ankle bones. And then they brace, draw their shoulders down, sink the back ribs, and draw the tailbone down, and then stretch out to that diagonal with the feet in the Pilates V, heels together. And now see how the springs are pretty much parallel to the mat. So my legs aren't up like this, and they're not way down like this. They're placed in a position where the springs are approximately parallel to the mat. Now, trying to keep the springs parallel to the mat, we start the frogs. You bend in that frog position and stretch out, keeping the springs at that same level. And as you do this, obviously we're working on maintaining neutral pelvis. So be sure you're cueing to, like we did in footwork, to lengthen the tailbone as you bend the knees and widen the sitting bones. So tailbone lengthens to the opposite wall, sitting bones widen apart. Then, as you press out, abdominals are your focus, along with stretching out smoothly, keeping the tailbone anchored and the heels together. Inhale and exhale. It's a lot harder in the springs, obviously, to keep control. So that's their focus as well as the positioning. So there's no bouncing or jerky moves. Nothing should be done very fast. Also very controlled throughout. You're always cueing those principles. After you do 5 to 10 of those, your choice, I usually will go ahead and start them parallel up to about where they can keep their neutral pelvis as their starting position. I like to do a one-leg press and back up to meet. This right here is challenging in terms of control. And that's where you're working on your pelvic stability and the fluidity of the legs. And then after I've done a couple on each side, just one at a time, I'd have them pause in this one down, one up, and do a simultaneous switch and simultaneous switch. Now this is a little bit more of your lower end of the intermediate level. You wouldn't need to do this at the higher intermediate end. You know, there's a lot of levels of difficulty in a lot of the Pilates work. And this is a little bit more when you're still introducing some of this to them. But then once they've mastered that, you can go right into your circles from the frogs and go down, parallel, up, open, up, and together. And it's almost like a fluid rectangle instead of a circle. It isn't real wide, and it isn't about turning out or getting the inner legs super stretched out. It's more about stability through the trunk, especially the pelvis, and keeping the legs working equally so they arrive like a team of horses. They come together at the same time. And so very important to check their symmetry in what they're doing. And then to reverse, come down and pause, and then reverse, inhale up together, open, down as they're open, and then together. I'm keeping the legs parallel throughout on this one. I'm not rotating an external rotation. I'm keeping it parallel throughout the circle. All about stability, again, of the pelvis and control. Breathing, inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. 5 to 10 in each direction. And then you can come back to that high position with the tailbone down to do walking. This is incremental little walks down and incremental little walks up, trying not to wobble the pelvis. And you can start very slow and then work your way into more of a flutter. These are harder than they look to do. And so it takes a little explanation, of course, as we've talked about. Now, some other variations on this you can do would be to take some openings. So I'm going to come down to where the springs are parallel, go to a V, and just do some openings here like we do on the reformer and pull together. A little more basic, but since we haven't done a lot of external rotation yet except for frogs, you can do this as well. And also it requires a lot of control. And then the other one we can do now that's more advanced is the bicycle. So we start with that split position that we practiced, and then we start the bottom leg bending. Simultaneously, the other one comes through and we arrive in that split on the other side. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Now for clients that struggle with this, you can bring both springs at the center of the bar by using a separate little small carabiner to hook both carabiners on to make both springs closer together at the center. And that makes the bicycle slightly easier, I think. It doesn't get caught up on their knees. And so if they're struggling because of the width of the springs, that's an option. Now we're going to reverse the bicycle. The top leg bends, the bottom leg goes straight up, and we try to arrive at the same time. Always a challenge. And again, you can do 5 to 10 in each direction approximately, and then finish with both legs straight. All right, we're going to go ahead and come on out of the springs. Hug in. Give it a little stretch for the back, and then roll to sit. Okay, we're going on to the tower now. So now I need to set up again with my safety chain because I'm going to be bottom loading my push-through bar, but I'm only going to use one spring. So one spring, bottom loaded, but safety chain on first. Now for this one, we're doing the tower. You want to have them slide under carefully, but this time they want to be about an arm's distance from your end of the machine. So if they put their hands there, straighten their arms, that's about where they want to be. Then you would push the bar up. They're going to put both toes on the bar parallel, keeping the hands on the bar, on the uprights. And now they're in this little almost small pike position. Ideally, they try to get their tailbone all the way down if they can. And now we're going to start in a flex of the feet. Then you press up to the toes, inhale, curl from the tailbone to roll up to your pike position, small bend and straighten the legs, inhale, and sink the upper chest first to roll through the spine one bone at a time until you get all the way as close to that tailbone as possible, and then flex the feet at the bottom. Inhale, press the toes up, scoop, exhale, roll up, small bend and stretch, inhale, sink the chest, roll down bone by bone, and at the bottom flex. Press, inhale, scoop to roll up, exhale, small bend and stretch, inhale, and curl to roll down, keeping each bone articulating, and flex at the bottom. One more, inhale, curl from your low belly and low tailbone area, roll up, hold and do a small bend and stretch, inhale, and scoop to roll down. at the bottom flex. And then once they've done that, they can release their hands from the uprights, bend their knees. You will grab the bar to spot, hold it as they take the feet off, and then bring it down carefully. Have them slide out from under. Make sure their head clears before they roll to their side. Always spot with your hand to make sure. Alrighty, let's unhook this setup. We'll take the bottom loaded spring off first. The safety chain comes off second. And now we're going to top load this bar with one spring. Top loaded, one spring. Okay. Now we're going to do our sitting forward push through. So feet against the uprights, hands on the bar, nice and tall, shoulder blades glide down. And we're going to do a C curve and roll back as you press the bar down. Keep pulling the navel to the spine. Draw the shoulders down as you push the bar very smoothly through. The work is right here. Then push through to stretch, but keep your belly pulling back. Don't just have them lay on the legs. It's about this high scoop in that center body and upper body reach. Then you start the roll back, but you're really controlling the bar so it doesn't pop as it comes through this little spot right here. And then unravel to come tall and return to your neutral seated. Scoop and hollow. Exhale. Push through and stretch. Belly pulls back. Inhale. Roll back. Exhale. Unravel up. Variation. You start the scoop and curl. When you get the bar to almost the solar plexus, pause and do 5 tiny presses here. 1. This is a lot of work. 2. 3. Keeping that C curve. 4. And on the 5, push through and stretch. Inhale. Exhale, roll back. And lengthen up. Now we'll do the same thing, but this will be your reach, your roll back with the reach. So you start the same. You start the C curve. You press the bar down in that deep C curve. Hold, and then you take one arm off. Reach out and around to that back diagonal, looking there as you reach that whole side body there. Now use your abdominals to initiate, bringing it back around, and then you can either push through at that point and then roll up and back to center and do the other side, or you can eliminate the push through and just roll back up. So scoop and roll to curve, press the bar down first to here, then release the other side and reach back to that diagonal. Keep both legs reaching in opposition. Use your abdominals to initiate, bringing the body back around, and then you can either push through or you can just roll back up. I like to push through usually. All right, so that was your reach. I would do that only once on each side or twice on each side is fine. We're just doing it as a little bit of full body integration work. So just depending on your time that you have in the session, you can do just a little bit of this. Okay, now we're going to do a thigh stretch. So let's take this spring off to get the bar out of the way. You don't want to hit it. And we're going to face the other direction and grab the roll down bar, kneeling. And you're going to come back to about the center of your mat, knees just hip width apart. Bond your shins and top feet to the mat. Put a little tension on the bar, get a good hand hold. And now we're going to lean back in a hinge. And as you do that, try to lift up with the abdominals and lengthen the spine. And keep pressing down a little on the bar so it doesn't pop up. And hinge back where you feel you can control it. Feel the stretch, but not pressure on the knee. So it depends on your client. This might be enough right here. And then back up to center neutral. Inhale, up and back. And I usually pause, exhale. And then inhale, up and center. And exhale. Now you can add a little bit to that if you want. Inhale, up and back. And then you can add a little upper back extension or thoracic extension, and then up to your neutral and center. Inhale up and back, and add a little upper thoracic extension. Back up and center. And depending on your client's flexibility will determine how far back they will go. Do 2 or 3 of those is fine. We're just, again, working in our full body integration and then also getting a little quad stretch in there. All right, let's go to arm work. So we're going to go to the open end of the Cadillac standing. I'm going to switch out, so I have the leg springs on from what we did a minute ago. I'm now switching out to arm springs with handles, little hand handles. And again, I want it to be about the height of just below or at my shoulders. Make sure the knobs are secured. And I'm going to angle the camera a little differently so you can see me at this other end. Okay. So now what we're going to do is facing the Cadillac, we're going to do some chest expansion. So legs parallel, and you want to have a little tension on the springs, but not a lot when you're in your standing position. Keeping your neutral, you're going to press down and back, exhale, hold a second, and then forward a little. Exhale, press, inhale, forward. And again, how far back they stand, you just want it to be where they feel the tension that's appropriate when they press back. It will be a little more slack when they come forward, that's fine. But you're not coming way forward anyway. The important thing is when they press back that they're able to maintain posture, that they feel all their posture muscles working, as well as, of course, the arms are working here too. Mainly the back of the arm, the shoulders, the lats, upper mid-back. And you do anywhere from, again, 5 to 10 reps of this. And release. Always hold it back there a second and then release. Now, that's your chest expansion. We're going to turn around and do hug a tree. For this one, we do a slight incline. We're going to lean into the springs a little bit with the arms extended. Then I have to kind of find where my feet need to be to maintain a slanted neutral here. I'm going to maintain the tension on the springs as I open side diagonal and press forward just below shoulder level. Inhale, exhale. And you can either be parallel or in a little Pilates V with the legs. Exhale. Tight abdominals, nice straight line through the body ideally. And again, up to 10 repetitions. Now, on the next one, we're going to start arm circles. We come forward like the hug a tree. Rotate the palms toward the floor to come up. Open to that side diagonal just in front of the shoulder line, and then forward again for your hug a tree. Rotate up, inhale, and around, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Again, 5 to 10 in each direction. I'm going to do one more in this direction. Now pause forward to reverse. You open. Keep it slightly forward of shoulder line as you come up. And press straight forward and rotate the palms toward each other. Open. Arms up. Press forward. Rotate. Open. Inhale. Forward exhale. Open. Up. Keeping it about shoulder width apart with your hands, or slightly forward of the shoulder or inside the shoulders if it works okay for your client. Notice that the springs come right at my shoulder height, but I've got the bar low enough that it doesn't hit on me really, actually. It just touches slightly. You could bring the bar down more if they need it, or higher if they need it, depending. So let's say I've done my 5 to 10 in each direction. Now a little above shoulder line, almost where my temples are, I'm going to do my boxing. So I take one arm bent and then alternate the arms, trying to maintain stability in the trunk. Anywhere from 5 to 10 on each side. And then finish, come back a little bit to release your tension. Then have them bring the arms down alongside, palms facing forward, and then they're going to step forward more and arms behind the body, curl in and find that little lean again. And this is going to be our bicep curls, but the upper arm is behind the body or behind the shoulders. And then you keep the upper arm stationary. So you extend the arms and then you curl, exhale. Inhale, exhale. All right, I'm going to finish with this one, and then I come back a little and release. All right, and you can let them do a little stretch here if need be. All right, let's go to our next section. So after arm work, we're going to go to some side lift work. So on this one, I'm going to use my top loaded, so I'm going to move my camera back over. And we're going to go back to the push through bar, top loaded. Okay. Now, the strap that's usually pushed out of the way, we're going to use it for this. So I'm going to have the client lay so that when they're down, they'll be in a sideline position with the bottom arm extended, and then this top arm will be on the bar, palm facing inward toward the upright end, or palm overhand, in other words, underhand. Now, the legs are going to be extended, but we're going to slip the feet under this little strap with the top leg in front, and but both feet on the mat. So my hips should still be stacked though, and I should be in a straight line in the center of the mat, and bottom arm extended, palm up, and then you'll pull the bar down to have them grab it. Remember, it's just one spring top loaded, and then they're going to bend and push through. Inhale, exhale, and then bend and come to straight arm and lift the upper body and back down. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. One more. You can do anywhere up to 10 if you want, but usually 5 is enough. I'm going to do 3 here just for time. Up and down. And ideally you keep that upper arm straight when you do the lift. Okay, to flip, again, the top leg will be in front, stack in the center of the mat, bottom arm extended, palm toward the ceiling, pull the bar down to give it to them, and you could tighten that strap. I don't have it very tight. You could tighten it so they have a little more resistance there, and you bend and push through. Inhale, exhale, and they come through and lift. And inhale, exhale, come through, lift. One more. All right. And then you would take the bar from them. Okay. And then we're going to do some prong work. So this is your back, and we're going to do prong 1. And so you're going to keep the same setup, top loaded 1 spring. You'll push the bar down for them. When you push it down, line it up between the 2 uprights. Then have them lay on their stomach, place their hands on the bar. I like them to go ahead and go all the way to the end of the bar. Heel of the hand is mainly what's on the bar, but they can wrap their fingers or extend them. Thumb on top is preferable. if they feel secure there. Now I've got a little wrap on my bar that has that, you know, tactile kind of helps keep the hand from slipping. So just be careful if they need to wrap the fingers for security, do that. Now I'm also working in an open V with the legs to keep a little pressure off the low back. You can do it with the legs together, of course, but I like to err on the side of caution most of the time and go in a slight open V. Okay, abdominals first are what you're focusing on. Abdominals tight underneath, navel lifting away from the mat. Pelvic triangle, neutral on the mat. Draw the shoulders down first. Hover the head. Tighten the belly. Start lifting the chest forward and up. As you do, the bar moves towards you. And you only go as high as they feel comfortable doing. I don't have a great back, so I have some restrictions from past injury. So this is about where I can go. But if they can go higher without feeling any strain, but I still like to connect with my hands. I really usually focus on their abdominals as they lift, and sometimes I'll put my hands there just to give them a reminder that you're not going up and crunching that low back. You're lifting forward up with a stretch through both sides of the body, and the abdominals as your main muscle to support the spine. And so you really need to cue that carefully on this one, especially on any of the back ones, okay? So inhale forward and up. The head is the last thing to come forward and look forward. So don't let them pop that head up first, and then lower. Inhale forward and up. And lower. And inhale forward and up. And lower. At this point, you take hold of the bar, keep it down until they move back into their rest position, and then you release it up so they're out of the way. And take deep breaths. Inhale. Exhale to stretch out that back. Now we're going to do one more back one, so sometimes I'll have them also do a cat stretch here since I'm going to do another back exercise. I'll go to 4-point, do a few cats just to release it out. Or you could also have them do a cat stretch with the push-through bar. And that would be this one where you're going to press down. You can come closer and start with the elbows bent, push down, curve, and then lengthen out to your to your stretch, and then round back through the cat, and bend the elbows as you come through, and then press down and lift the chest, and back to center, curve, push through to stretch, round to initiate, coming back through, and press. All right, then we're going to release this bar all the way down. And then we're going to set up for some hanging. So once again, I'm going to use my swing. Hooked to the top sliding bar. And then I'm going to get a couple of stickies. I do recommend you have something. These are just those little pieces that you can get that usually are liners for drawers that have a little tactile stickiness to them and keep their hands from sliding. And that's a good for keeping a good grip on the poles up here. So you can wrap these about where they're going to be putting their hands. Now, what you want to do is, once you kind of get them, your hand, you want to make sure they're far enough from this back part that when they come into their supine position toward the ceiling, you don't want them hitting this back bar with their head. So you want these hand grips far enough forward to make sure that's not going to be a problem. I probably need to angle my thing a little bit, but so that means I might have to move this swing a little forward if I need to. And so, yeah, let me angle that just a little bit so you can see where the hands are and everything. if I can. Alrighty, that's a little better. Okay, all right. Cadillac is a big piece. Okay, so I stand, have them put their hands on the grippers, put one foot in, flex the foot around that spring, then you sit the hip down as you bend the bottom knee, then draw the shoulders down so you have a good handhold there, other foot goes in, hook it, and now you're in your little V-sit. From there, drawing the shoulders down and your belly tight, press up to a straight line. First, just feel that nice neutral here. Hinge at the hip socket to bring it back to your V-sit. Inhale. Exhale. And then if you want to add thoracic extension, if they're ready for it, you can do that. First, go here, and then a little bit of thoracic extension, back to neutral, and then down, press up, thoracic extension, back to neutral, and V-sit. Then once you're here to come out, one foot comes out first. Stand on it, then the other foot comes out. Safety, safety, safety. Always cue people how to get out safely. So you get the weight on one foot, stand on it, other foot comes out. Alrighty, and about now we've done a full comprehensive session other than maybe some stretching. So you can remove your swing. And I like to do for stretching sometimes, just simply brace against the uprights, grab on above the feet, stretch into a spine stretch position, and I'm kind of pulling with my arms and bracing with my feet, and then pulling the navel away from the feet in that deep curve, and then lengthen out to a high diagonal. Feel that stretch through a long back. Inhale, round over, exhale, and lengthen out, inhale, and round over. And we've already done quite a bit of stretching, dynamic stretching in the process of some of our other exercises, but sometimes your clients might need a little more at the end, so you can do a number of different things. You can have them do a straddle stretch. I like to grab the front table and have that little bit of resistance there. So I'm kind of pulling here as I lengthen the back forward in a neutral between the legs. And then maybe walk that to one side. And I'm bracing here so I get that little opposition. And I, of course, love to do the hip stretch here. And so that's always a nice one to end with too. And then, of course, you can always do some TheraBand stretching for the hamstrings. And so if you have time at the end of your session to add some additional, more passive held stretches, that's always a nice way to finish off as well. All right, and so let's take a couple of breaths to finish off. Inhale, and exhale. And inhale, and exhale, and thank you all. Hope that helped. Nice example of doing a full session on just the Cadillac.